Hello and welcome to the next lecture, Right Mindset Matters. In my eyes, maybe one of the most important lectures in my course. Why? Because it's about how to improve your emotional intelligence if you follow the hints which are provided here. Because we often experience a situation where one side is saying apples and another side is understanding oranges. And this is something what should not happen on the project. Let's now take a look why it happens, why you should be relaxed about it, and how to improve that those situations are minimized. So first of all, this picture, I think some of you have already seen this. It's very famous, then talking about different perception of different realities. So some of you immediately see an old woman, some of you can immediately see a young woman. Personally, me, I see an old woman here. But what I want to say is that we see a different reality, and this is absolutely okay, and this is something what shall be accepted. Now let's see why it happens and how a perception of information can be explained from a psychology point of view. So we have someone who sends the information. You see here a lady who is thinking about kind of project plan, and she is saying Gantt, this Gantt chart, which is used for project planning. So first of all, the counterpart has to see and hear this message. That's why we have stimulation in the first stage. So in the second step, this information is either registered or not registered, depending on the current goals and interests of the counterpart. So if someone who is hearing this term Gantt is hungry and he has not eaten for days, then the probability of registration will be very, very low. But let's assume he's not hungry or he's not hungry and this information is registered. So what happens in the next step? In the next step, the counterpart is allocating this message according to his professional experience. So if someone is very well aware what Gantt means, he or she can immediately understand what is mentioned, namely the project plan. So now let's see what is happening in the last step, which is called interpretation. And here your counterpart is loading the message which is sent to him emotionally. That means based on his previous background with the message, with the signal, he or she can either be very interested in what you're saying to him, or he or she can be completely neglecting this message because of the very negative emotional experience with Gantt chart, for example. So now let's see what do we have in our case. In our case, you see the classical example of apples and oranges. Someone is saying Gantt, meaning project planning, and the counterpart is understanding the brand Gantt due to all the filters what we have passed through. And this apples and oranges situation can appear quite often, and also appears quite often if you do not follow some hints. So now let's take a look at some recommendations which will improve your emotional intelligence. So first of all, this issue with misunderstanding. That's absolutely fine, and this is a part of our daily life. So you should be relaxed about misunderstandings. It's absolutely normal that your counterpart is sometimes not understanding what you are saying. So you should be a bit more relaxed about it and not expecting immediately that your counterpart is following what you're saying to 100%. So your counterpart, in other words, can has own reality, what you see on this picture here. Then I would also recommend to follow what Socrates was saying once, and he said, "One thing only I know is that I know nothing." And That helps very much because in this way you are ready to hear and to listen what your counterpart is saying to you. So you are able to try to move, to shift into position of your counterpart, to show empathy, in other words, right? So next thing is diversity. The world is diverse, and that's absolutely fine. And there is no one unique reality which is the right one. And be open and accept the diversity what we have. The next one would be to ask questions. Constantly asking questions will support you in understanding your counterpart correctly. So if you are talking with your client and your client explains you the task, what shall be done, you should ask so many questions as possible to be on the safe side that you understand these tasks in a correct way and 100%. So then when you ask questions, you of course shall also listen carefully. And that sounds simple, but it's not that simple, because carefully listening means you concentrate your energy to 100% on your counterpart, trying to follow him in each detail, and that costs energy, I have to say. So those are the general recommendations for the mindset what you should be driving on your project. So now let's take a look on more concrete actions, how to set up communications in a healthy way. The first priority would be to clarify misunderstandings and conflicts. And the second thing is, instead of proving you are right, you should explore the causes and background of differences. The next one, what you should do is to address as many senses as possible to make the information what you send to your counterpart more tangible. And this is, by the way, one of the reasons why consulting companies produce those fancy slides to make the information easy to understand. To send clear messages is crucial for the project, because in this way you will save time. You will save time in meetings. Then prior to the meetings you define what is the goal of the meeting, what is the agenda of the meeting, what is the awaited output of the meeting. You will save time in the explanation of information when you put clear headings in your PowerPoint slides. And this is basically one of the core messages in the courses which explain how professional PowerPoints shall look like. The next, what I would recommend you is to be solution oriented, independing on the situation, independing on the task. It might be very challenging, it might not be feasible to solve in 2 or 3 days, and that's expected from your side, for example. But sending a message in a way, yeah, but the problem is I do not have enough time and so on, it's not the correct and professional way of doing business, at least in my eyes. So you try to send a message, you are ready to go, and you are proposing a solution to solve this task. For example, I'm ready and I'm happy to take this task, but I would also be happy to get a support from an intern, for example, right? Last point would be to look at the situation from different points of view, to be open-minded, to accept other ways of solutions, and to understand why this may be more appropriate for this task. To be flexible, in other words. And that's what I think is important in improving your emotional intelligence on the project, but not only on the project, in the daily life as well. And then you pay attention to those hints, to those recommendations. You will see how your emotional intelligence will improve and how your projects will be running more smoothly. So that's all from my side. Thank you for your attention. See you.